will open up my eyes so I can see the light. Oh, and I'll try to spread my wings so I can fly. Oh, and the darkness starts to fade. Feels like things are gonna go my way. I'm gonna let the sun shine in the day.
Episode 4, Fatherhood and Fracture, Lost Years and Reconnection.
Hey legends, just before we dive in, a quick reminder that Michael and I are not doctors, psychologists, or mental health professionals. We're just two blokes sharing real stories about living through anxiety, depression, PTSD, grief, and everything in between. What we talk about here is raw and honest, based on personal experience, not clinical advice. If you're struggling, please reach out to a professional or someone you trust. You're not alone. And if this episode hits a bit too close to home, it's okay to pause, breathe, and come back when you're ready. There's strength in stepping away and even more strength in coming back.
Absolutely. And just a heads up, this episode includes themes of parental loss, separation, emotional trauma, and mental health spirals. But it also includes reconnection, humor, and healing. And of course, Bob being a proper pest as always.
Righto, let's get into it. Last week, we talked about being young, dumb, and completely unprepared, but still somehow ready to love. I was 18, a dad, and for a while, that love was everything. Holding my daughter for the first time, mate, it was like someone handed me my heart outside my chest, wrapped in pink blankets and pure wonder. But life doesn't play fair, because 6 months later, she was gone.
No warning, no legal stuff, just vanished.
Yeah, her mum left, took her, no court order, no custody battle, no goodbye. Just a note, a whisper in the air, and nothing but silence after that. I'd walk around the house thinking I'd hear her cry or laugh or see a bottle half full on the table, but there was nothing, just empty space and time stretching out like a punishment.
That kind of disappearance, it doesn't feel real at first. It's like someone hit pause on your life and never pressed play again.
Exactly. And at first you convince yourself maybe it's temporary, a week, a month. You hope, you make excuses, but then the birthdays come and go, and no one's calling, no one's telling you where she is, and suddenly a year's passed and you're still picturing her as a baby, but she's not. She's growing, and you're missing everything.
Did you try reaching out, like chasing it up?
I tried. Mate, I called around, I asked mutual friends, I even rang her mum's old landlord, hoping for a lead, but it was like they all vanished into smoke. And the longer it went on, the more I turned inward. The guilt started eating at me. I kept thinking, was I just not good enough to be her dad? Was I already failing at the one thing that mattered most?
And that's where Bob shows up, yeah?
Oh, bloody Bob. He didn't just show up. He moved in, unpacked, and started redecorating the joint with guilt and shame. I'd be doing dishes and Bob would whisper, "You know she probably doesn't even remember you, right? Or, she's better off without you."
Classic Bob.
Mate, Bob's a master of timing. Always pops up when I'm just trying to breathe. He'd hit me with questions I wasn't ready for. What kind of father just gives up? And I'd snap. I didn't give up. But then you're standing there arguing with your anxiety like it's a roommate, and you realise you're bloody losing it.
Did you ever get a chance to tell anyone what was going on back then?
Not really. I mean, I had mates, but you know how it is. You don't want to be that guy at the pub crying into his schooner. I bottled it up tight, told myself, be strong, be a bloke, shut it down. That's what we do, right?
Until we break.
Exactly. And you don't even hear the cracks forming until something loud enough breaks inside you. For me, it wasn't one big moment. It was thousands of little ones walking past toy aisles, seeing dads at school pick up, even a damn baby sock on a footpath could knock the wind out of me.
That's grief, man. People think it's just for the dead, but it's not. It's for the living you've lost too.
Bang on. And this grief, it lingered, it haunted, and it started to spread into everything. Relationships, work, trust. I started pulling away from people because I couldn't handle being close to anyone. If I could lose my daughter, what else could I lose?
Bob must have had a field day with that logic.
Oh, Bob was thriving, throwing little anxiety parties in my head every night, and I just kept hosting him. No rent, no respect, just letting him stay
You ever try evicting him?
a few times. But he's slippery. You kick him out one door, he sneaks in through the laundry with a beer and a list of my failures. Remember when you didn't go to that counselling session? Yeah, I brought that up just in case you were feeling okay today.
I reckon half the country's got a Bob. They just don't call him by name.
Naming him gave me some power back. Like instead of saying I'm anxious, I'd say Bob's being a dickhead again. It makes it feel like he's separate from me. I can talk back to him, I can limit him. That's where my three L's came from.
Ah, the old listen, learn, and limit.
Yep. When Bob starts his garbage, I listen, not react, just hear him. Then I learn, figure out what triggered him, and finally I limit. Put a boundary around how much I let him take. It's like putting Bob in the back seat. He can whinge all he wants, but he's not driving anymore.
That's powerful, mate. And it's practical. A lot of people listening right now probably need to do that with their own version of Bob.
I hope so. Because honestly, I didn't start healing until I acknowledged I had Bob and that I could make him shut the hell up for a bit.
So, what happened after those early years of silence?
That's the thing. The silence didn't stay quiet. It started screaming in my sleep, in my chest, in the way I avoided life. And then something changed, something big.
All right, we'll get into that. But let's take a breath, yeah?
Yeah, because the next bit in that message, it's where everything shifts. There were years, I'm talking full on grinding years, where I just stopped talking about her altogether. Like people would ask, do you have kids? And I'd just sort of shrug or dodge it or say, not really, and try to laugh it off. But inside, it felt like I was betraying her every time I said nothing. Because I did have a daughter. I had a little girl I loved with everything I had. I just didn't have access to her. And every time I buried that answer, every time I swallowed those words, it was like putting another brick on top of this wall I was building around myself. And Bob, of course, loved that. He'd sit in the corner of my mind, puffing on a fake cigar like some sleazy little landlord, going, smart move, mate. Best not mention her at all. Easier that way. And for a while he was right. It was easier. But it also made me colder. I'd go numb around family birthdays. I avoided friends who had kids. I even stopped going to the local Christmas lights walk because seeing families together just broke me. It's not that I didn't want to feel joy. I just couldn't bear the reminder of what I'd lost. And every now and then, late at night, when the noise of the world died down, I'd lie in bed and whisper, I hope you're okay, like some kind of pathetic prayer to a daughter I didn't even know anymore.
That hits, man. That hollow space. It's like grief with no body, no funeral, no closure. Just the ache that loops back every time something triggers it.
Exactly. And the worst part, you start to question if you even have the right to feel that way. I mean, I wasn't there, right? I didn't raise her. I didn't pack lunch boxes or walk her to school. So then Bob pipes up again and goes, well, you weren't a real dad anyway, so what are you even grieving? And you know what? Sometimes I'd agree with him. I'd sit there nodding along to my own self-hate.
Mate, that's brutal, but so damn real. And I reckon a lot of people listening are hearing their own Bob in this moment too.
Yeah, that's why we've got to talk about this, because silence feeds Bob. Every time we keep it locked in, he gets louder. But when we speak it, when we say, I'm hurting because I lost that connection, we start to take the power back. Not all at once, not clean, but we shift the weight a bit.
So true. You don't erase that pain, you just start learning how to carry it better.
Exactly. And mate, carrying it nearly crushed me. But then something happened, something I never saw coming.
That message, right?
Yeah, the message that shook my whole world. And that's where we'll go next. All right, let me go deeper, because honestly, this part, it's where everything started to break beneath the surface. The thing people don't realize is that when you've lost someone to time, not death, not an ending, but a long, cruel silence, it messes with your sense of reality. You start imagining conversations that never happened. You rewrite the past in your head, trying to find the moment you failed, like maybe there was a button you missed pressing or a call you should have made that would have changed the whole timeline. I'd lie in bed at night staring at the ceiling and I'd hear her voice in my mind, not her real voice because I didn't know what it sounded like anymore, but the voice I imagined she'd have, and it would say things like, "Where were you, Dad?" Or worse, "I don't need you." And mate, that voice, it cut deeper than any knife. I tried filling the hole with distractions, relationships, work, even the occasional night out pretending I was okay. But every smile felt borrowed, every laugh was short term, and Bob, bloody Bob, he was relentless. "You're broken, mate," he'd say. "You're not even worth remembering." And I believed him. For a while I thought maybe I didn't deserve to be remembered. I mean, what kind of dad loses his daughter and just waits in silence? I kept trying to tell myself that I didn't have a choice, that it wasn't my fault, but that guilt was like wet cement hardening around my feet. I was stuck, emotionally paralyzed. And the thing about grief like that, it leaks into everything. I couldn't connect properly with anyone, couldn't commit, couldn't even picture a future, because every time I tried to dream ahead, I was yanked back to that hospital room, holding a tiny baby and not knowing it was the last moment I'd see her for nearly 2 decades. And I'd think about all the things I missed: birthdays, school plays, bloody wobbly teeth, the little stuff most people take for granted. And then there's Bob again, sitting on the end of the bed like a ghost with attitude, saying, "And you think you deserve a second chance?" And I'd just lie there silent, not because I agreed, but because I didn't have the strength to argue anymore. I started living like a ghost in my own life, going through the motions, showing up but never really being there. I could laugh at a joke, hold a conversation, even flirt with someone if I had to, but behind it all I was miles away, thinking about a little girl who was probably now a young woman somewhere out there in the world, and I had no idea if she even knew my name.
And yet, mate, through all that, you kept going. You didn't collapse completely. You didn't let Bob drive the whole car off the cliff. That says something. That's strength. Even if it didn't feel like strength at the time.
Yeah, I didn't collapse, but I came bloody close, mate. I came really close. And the only reason I didn't was because of something I didn't expect: a flicker, a tiny blinking light in the middle of all that darkness, a message, just one, and it came on a night where I felt like I was done, just done.
Yeah? That's the next turning point, right?
Yeah, 17 years of silence, broken by 5 words. "I think you're my dad." It was late, one of those nights where I wasn't even really present. You know, the kind where you're just mindlessly scrolling, not absorbing anything, just letting your thumb do the thinking because your brain's too tired to care. I wasn't looking for anything, wasn't expecting anything, just killing time because sleeping meant dreaming and dreaming meant remembering. And then, ding, Facebook Messenger notification. My heart didn't skip a beat straight away because I figured it was some spam or some bloke trying to sell me a crypto scheme. But when I opened it, mate, everything in me stopped. It just said, "Hi, I think you might be my dad." And I sat there, frozen. My hands were shaking, my eyes blinking like mad, trying to reread those words because my brain just flat out refused to process it. For a full minute, I couldn't breathe, like I'd just been punched square in the chest by a ghost from my past. And then, of course, Bloody Bob decides to show up, not with compassion or logic, but with that smug little attitude of his. "It's probably a scam, mate. Don't get your hopes up. Bet it's a mistake." Or worse, "She wants to find you just to tell you off for being a shit dad." I mean, seriously, Bob's timing is impeccable. If you've ever needed someone to ruin a sacred moment, Bob's your man. So there I am, heart thumping, staring at this message, while Bob's in my ear doing his best impression of a toxic ex. And I'm trying to decide whether to believe the possibility of hope or retreat into the safety of numbness again. I read that message probably 20 times before I even moved, and then I typed the most nervous, hopeful reply I've ever written. "What's your name?" And when she told me, mate, I just knew. It was her, her name, her birthday, even her mum's name. It all lined up, and that was it. The dam broke. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. Full, ugly, chest heaving, snot and tears kind of crying. And Bob, for the first time in a long time, he was quiet, not gone, not dead, but quiet, like even he knew this moment deserved silence.
Bloody hell, man. I've got goosebumps just hearing that. That moment, it must have been like the earth moved under you.
It was. It was like I'd been walking through fog for 17 years, and suddenly the sun cracked through just enough for me to see something real. And the next few days, we messaged, we talked, we asked questions. She told me stories about her life, her memories, what she knew, what she didn't, and I filled in the blanks awkwardly, nervously, but honestly. I didn't pretend to be perfect. I didn't try to rewrite history. I just said, I'm your dad. I never stopped thinking about you. And she said, I know. And I swear, mate, that line, I know, that healed something inside me. Not all the way, not cleanly, but it stitched up a wound that had been open for nearly 2 decades.
And what about Bob? He just went on a smoke break or what?
Mate, Bob was still around, don't worry. He just shifted gears. Now he started going, don't get too excited. She'll probably disappear again. This is too good to be true. You're going to mess this up. He's like that little kid who sees you cleaning the floor and immediately walks through with muddy boots. Just pure chaos for the sake of it. But this time, I didn't let him win. I reminded myself this was real, this was happening, and I had a second chance.
And what did that feel like? Having that second chance after all that time?
It felt terrifying and beautiful and completely overwhelming, but most of all, it felt like purpose. And we'll talk about the first time I saw her face to face next, because that was the moment that really hit home. All right, so after all the messages, the late night chats, the nervous small talk that felt like walking barefoot over broken glass, we finally locked it in. We were going to meet. And mate, I was bloody terrified. Not the kind of scared you get before a job interview or a speech. I'm talking bone deep, stomach churning fear, the kind that makes your hands sweat even when it's freezing. I kept thinking, what if she sees me and regrets reaching out? What if I remind her of pain? What if I'm not what she hoped? And Bob? Oh, Bob had packed a bloody picnic for this one. He was already sitting in the back seat of the car, throwing out lines like, you better wear something nice so you don't look like a washed up wreck, and don't smile too much or she'll think you're a creep, and remember you've got nothing to offer her. Honestly, mate, I don't know how I didn't throw him out the window on the highway. I pulled up to the meeting spot, heart pounding so loud I thought people walking past could hear it. And then there she was. I saw her walking toward me and I just froze. She was grown. Not a baby, not a toddler, not that giggling image I'd kept in my head for 17 years, but a woman. And yet, somehow, still my little girl. My knees went weak, not from age or pain, though let's be honest, both of those things are creeping up, but from pure emotional overload. She looked nervous too, fiddling with her sleeves like she didn't know what to do with her hands. And then she smiled, just a little one, and it was like a jolt to my soul. I stepped forward and we hugged, this long, shaky, awkward, perfect hug, and I cried again because I'd forgotten what it felt like to hold someone who was part of me. And for a moment, just a moment, the world felt right.
I'm getting choked up just hearing this, mate. That's powerful. That's raw. I mean, what do you even say in a moment like that?
Honestly, not much at first. We just stood there kind of rocking side to side, like neither of us wanted to be the first to let go. Then she said, hi, just that. And I said, hi. And then we both laughed because it was ridiculous that after 17 years, those were the first words we managed. But it was perfect. And Bob, he tried, don't get me wrong. I felt him warming up in the back of my mind, getting ready with a zinger like, don't blow this, mate. But something strange happened. I didn't care what Bob had to say in that moment because it wasn't about him. It wasn't about fear or guilt or failure. It was about this incredible, impossible reunion between a dad and his daughter. The world can talk all it wants about second chances, but most people don't get them. I did, and I wasn't going to let my inner chaos ruin it.
You know what? That's what I love about this. Not just the reunion itself, but the fact you were real in it. You didn't try to hide the fear or polish yourself up into something you're not. You just showed up as you were, scared, hopeful, broken, but open. And that's what she needed, right? The truth. Not the perfect dad, just her dad.
Exactly. That's what I've learned. Reconnection doesn't mean rewriting the past. It means being present now, owning the mess, holding space for the pain, but still showing up. And mate, I showed up, shaking knees, sweaty palms, not in my gut, but I showed up. And that hug was worth every second of the 17 years I waited. After that first meeting, everything changed, but not in the fairy tale way people might imagine. It wasn't all rainbows and Disney music and suddenly we're best mates. Building years we missed like Lego blocks. Nah, it was messy. Beautiful, but messy. We started talking more slowly, like two people trying to build a bridge without the same blueprints. Some chats were deep, real deep, and some were just weirdly awkward, like, so, do you like pizza? Kind of awkward, but we kept showing up. Every call, every message, every shared laugh was one tiny thread stitching us together again. And then came the moment that absolutely rocked me to the core. She told me I was a grandfather. Mate, I sat there, mouth open, trying to process the fact that not only had I missed her growing up, but I'd missed her becoming a mother. I'd missed the baby showers, the hospital visits, the first birthdays of my grandkids. I didn't even know how many there were at first. It was like someone handed me a photo album and said, "Here's your legacy. Sorry it's 17 years late." And Bob? Oh, Bob loved this part. He came back louder than ever. "You missed everything, mate. First steps, first words, first teeth, all of it. You think you can just rock up and play pop now?" He was ruthless, like some bitter commentator calling play by play on every moment I missed. And I won't lie, I let him get to me. I spiraled for a bit. I started pulling away, doubting myself again, wondering if I had any right to be part of this new chapter.
I get that. The guilt would have been massive. It's like grief's evil twin. You know, the one that shows up just when things are getting better and reminds you what you lost.
Exactly. It's not just guilt, it's layered guilt. Like guilt for not being there, guilt for still wanting to be involved, guilt for feeling joy after so much pain. And I'd lie awake some nights wondering, is it selfish to be happy now? And Bob, of course, was there with a bloody whiteboard listing every reason why I didn't deserve this moment. Too late, too little, you'll only disappoint them. And mate, that kind of talk, it's poison. But this time I started fighting back. Not perfectly, not always, but I'd talk to Bob like he was a real person. I'd literally say out loud, "Bob, I hear you, but shut up, mate. This isn't your moment."
Laughs. Man, I can just picture that. You standing in the kitchen arguing with your invisible anxiety. Your neighbors probably think you're rehearsing for a play.
Oh, mate, if my walls could talk, they'd have a series on Netflix by now. But seriously, calling Bob out loud helped. It made the fear less mysterious, less powerful. It gave me a way to name it, tame it, and tell it to get stuffed when I needed to. And I needed to because becoming part of her life again and my grandkids' lives, it mattered. I wasn't going to let guilt rob me of a second chance.
And that right there, that's growth, brother. That's what people need to hear. It's never too late to try. It's never too late to show up and say, I want to be better.
Yeah. And even if I missed the first chapters, I'm here now, pen in hand, ready to write the next ones with them. Here's the thing people don't talk about when they say, "Oh, wow, that's so amazing. You reconnected with your daughter." They forget to mention that reconnection isn't the same as recovery. They're not interchangeable. Reconnection is a spark, beautiful, bright, but recovery, that's the hard slog. That's where the real work begins. Because once the adrenaline wore off and the novelty of those first few chats faded, I was left alone with 17 years of emotional baggage that hadn't gone anywhere. It just got temporarily pushed aside so I could function. And Bob, Oh, mate, Bob saw his opportunity. He came crashing through the front door like he owned the place. Told you it wouldn't fix you. Still broken, still a fraud, still pretending you've got this all together. And I started believing him again, started slipping. I remember one night sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at my hands like I didn't even recognize them, like they belonged to a bloke I used to be. I was so used to hurting that I didn't know how to feel okay without second guessing it. I felt like I had to apologize for smiling. And the worst part, there were times I looked at a photo of her, my daughter, and or even her kids, and instead of joy, I felt panic, like I was waiting for the whole thing to disappear, like I'd wake up and it would have all been some cruel dream. That's what trauma does, mate. It doesn't let you relax. It doesn't let you feel safe, even when you are safe.
That's heavy, man. And it makes so much sense. It's like trauma hardwires your brain to expect pain. So even when something good happens, you brace for the impact anyway.
Exactly. It's like I was wearing emotional body armor even in peaceful moments. And Bob, he's up there in the control tower with a walkie talkie going, "All right, lads, good moment detected. Let's ruin it with anxiety in three, two, one." And suddenly I'm lying in bed, sweating over a memory that should make me smile. Reconnecting didn't cure my depression. It didn't silence Bob. It didn't erase the years of feeling like a ghost. It just gave me a reason to want to get better. But wanting to heal and actually healing, two different beasts.
That right there is powerful, Scott. It's not a miracle cure, it's a starting line.
Yeah, it's like being handed a second chance and realizing you still have to walk the whole path yourself. Reconnection is the moment the heart flickers back on. But healing, that's where the sweat, the tears, the vulnerability comes in. And that's what we're diving into next because when that bottle of emotions burst open, I wasn't ready. All right, so here's where it really started falling apart again. I'd been holding everything together with duct tape and hope, thinking I've reconnected with my daughter. That's got to fix everything, right? But nah. What actually happened was that everything I'd bottled up for 17 bloody years came bursting out like shaken Coke with the lid ripped off. And Bob, oh, that cheeky bastard, he was loving every second of it. He didn't even sneak in this time, mate. He came in wearing a party hat, holding a megaphone, shouting, he's spiraling everyone back to business as usual. I'd be doing something totally normal, washing dishes, walking to the letterbox, making coffee, and Bob would just appear out of nowhere like, "Hey, remember when you missed her entire childhood?" I mean, the man's got no chill. He's like that annoying relative who always brings up the worst stories at Christmas.
Oh, mate, I swear Bob's the kind of guy who'd rock up at your wedding and be like, "You sure this is gonna last?" Just pure negativity in a bucket hat.
Yes, that's exactly him. He'd sit next to you at the best moment of your life and whisper, "Bet they leave too." And I was listening to him again, even though I knew I shouldn't. But he's bloody convincing. He doesn't shout, he whispers, subtle stuff, quiet digs. He plants doubt like weeds, and next thing you know, your whole garden's choked with fear. I'd find myself getting anxious for no reason, snapping at people, crying in the middle of the day for stuff I thought I'd dealt with. And Bob would just be in the background, swinging in a hammock, sipping a cocktail, like, oh, he's back in my domain.
You know what makes Bob so dangerous? He's familiar. Like, you don't even realize it's him sometimes. You just think it's your own thoughts. That's the trap.
Exactly. And that's why naming him helped, because when I say Bob, I know that's not me. That's the part of me that lies, that sabotages, that gaslights my hope. And once I started calling him out, even with humour, it gave me a bit of control back. I'd be walking around muttering to myself, "Shut up, Bob." And yeah, I probably looked like a lunatic, but it worked. I could laugh a bit, diffuse it. Because the second I laugh, I'm not powerless.
Laughter's like a weapon against Bob. He thrives in silence, but he hates being mocked. You start treating him like a joke, and suddenly he's not the scary monster anymore, just a dude with bad breath and terrible opinions.
That's right. And sometimes I'd even imagine Bob as this sad little guy living in a shoebox apartment in my brain, microwave meals, slippers, watching old episodes of Judge Judy, just waiting for a chance to pounce. And when I picture him like that, it's easier to say, "Mate, not today. You've got no power here."
So, what triggered the worst of it? When that bottle finally shattered. What cracked it open?
The quiet, mate, the stillness. After all the excitement of reconnecting, things settled. And when things get quiet, that's when your past starts screaming. We'll get into that next. But just know, Bob had front row seats. It's funny, isn't it, how silence can be louder than a scream, because once the initial rush of reconnecting passed, the messages slowed, the phone calls became less frequent, life started finding its new rhythm. That's when the bottle finally cracked. I was alone one night, just sitting there, not even sad at first, just quiet. But then, like a bloody magician pulling misery out of a hat, Bob shows up. No knocking, no warning. Just appears, plonks himself on the lounge and goes, "So what now, genius? You think this ends with hugs and happy ever afters." And mate, I fell for it. I spiraled. Hard. I started replaying everything I said to her, worrying I came off too intense or not intense enough, or maybe I asked the wrong questions. I convinced myself she was going to vanish again. And Bob, oh, he was doing a stand-up routine in my head. "Remember how you ruin things? Remember how you push people away? Just a matter of time, champ." I tried distracting myself, went for a walk, even mowed the lawn at bloody 11:30 at night just to drown out the thoughts. But nothing worked. I didn't eat, didn't sleep. I sat in the chair, staring at the wall for hours, like maybe if I didn't move, the anxiety wouldn't either. But it did. It moved in, unpacked, got comfy, and I got stuck. Couldn't talk to anyone. Couldn't admit I was crumbling again because how do you say, "Yeah, I just got my daughter back and I still feel broken"? That kind of truth feels ungrateful. But it's not. It's real. Reconnection didn't fix me. It just gave me something worth trying for. But healing, that was still on me.
Mate, I think a lot of people think healing's this straight line. Like, you hit a milestone and suddenly it's all sunshine and no shadows. But in truth, healing's more like a dodgy GPS, full of wrong turns, U-turns, and moments where you're yelling, recalculating at the sky.
That's spot on. And the worst part, Bob's your co-pilot the whole time, and he doesn't read maps. He just points at cliffs and says, "Go on, I dare ya." I swear, if Bob ever wrote a self-help book, it'd be titled "Why Bother?" and the pages would just be blank.
And yet, here you are, still standing, still telling the story, still making Bob look like a fool. That's something, mate. That's bloody everything.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't give up. I thought about it more than once, but even when Bob was screaming, even when I felt like a shell of a bloke, I kept going. And sometimes that's all we've got. One more step, one more breath, one more laugh in the face of fear. So here's where it got really bloody real. Not dramatic, not flashy, just raw, silent survival. There was this one night I'd been sitting in the same spot on the lounge for maybe 4 hours, didn't move, didn't speak. No TV, no phone, just me and the sound of the fridge, humming like it was the only thing keeping time alive. And there's Bob, not yelling this time, just calmly pacing around in my head, arms behind his back like a tour guide at a museum of every mistake I've ever made. This section here is called Failure to be a Dad, and over here we've got Times You Let People Down, and I'm just sitting there nodding along like he's making sense. And mate, it got dark, real dark. I wasn't thinking about dying in the dramatic movie scene way. It was more like, what if I just stopped feeling? Wouldn't that be easier? And that's when I knew I was slipping again, because even though I had my daughter back in my life, and even though I had grandkids now and a reason to smile, I still couldn't stop the ache. That numb, empty ache that makes you feel like even joy doesn't quite fit right. And Bob was feeding it. "They're better off without your mess," he said. "You think grandkids need you? You can't even look after yourself." I didn't even cry that night. I just stared, detached. And yet, somewhere deep down, another voice, a quieter one, said, "Stay, just for one more sunrise." And I did.
That's powerful, man, and heartbreaking. It's something so many people go through, thinking that love should be enough to save them, and then feeling ashamed when it's not. But like you said, that tiny voice, the one that says, "Stay," that's the one that matters most. That voice, that's you fighting back. That's the real you under all the noise.
Yeah, and I reckon that voice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just whispers, and you've got to be really still to hear it. I think that's the part Bob hates most when you start hearing yourself again. Not him, not the trauma, just you. And that night, it was enough, just enough to not give in, to hold the line, to breathe, to get up the next morning and make a coffee and pretend I was okay until I actually started to feel okay.
And I think that right there, pretending until the truth catches up, that's a real act of strength. Not faking it, but choosing to believe that the light's still out there, even when you can't see it yet.
Exactly. And I'll be honest, mate, sometimes I still hear Bob in the background. He doesn't leave. He evolves, gets quieter, slicker, but I've also gotten better at recognizing his voice and better at choosing not to listen.
And that's what we're all trying to do, yeah? Not delete Bob, just stop letting him write the bloody script.
Amen to that, brother. Bob can narrate his own podcast. I'm telling my story now. All right, let's bring in some listener stories because it turns out I'm not the only one who's been haunted by time, silence, and bloody Bob. One that hit me right in the chest came from a bloke named James up in Queensland. He wrote in and said, "Oh, Scott, how do I reconnect with a child I haven't seen in over a decade? I'm terrified I'll be rejected." And mate, when I read that, I just sat with it because that fear, that gut deep, nauseating fear of being told too late, that's something I know way too well. I remember typing my reply to James and deleting it 3 times, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I wanted to say it right. What I told him was this: be honest, be vulnerable, be ready to hear no, but also be brave enough to try anyway. Because rejection hurts, yeah, but regret, that's a wound that never stops bleeding. And Bob, oh, he'll give you every reason not to try. She's better without you. You'll ruin everything. She doesn't even remember your face. That's Bob's entire playlist. But James, if you're listening, you don't let Bob speak for her. Let her decide. Give her the dignity of choice, because silence steals that from both of you.
That's exactly it, man. Silence is a decision too. And it's often the one Bob encourages because it keeps everything in limbo. There's no risk in silence, but there's also no healing. And I reckon half the time, people like James, they're not even afraid of being told no. They're afraid of being told they were missed, because then they've got to face what they lost.
Yes, that's the twist people don't see coming. Sometimes what we fear most isn't rejection, it's acceptance. Because when someone says, I missed you, suddenly you've got to look that grief in the eye and say, I missed you too. And that kind of honesty, it shakes you. Another listener, Tam from WA, messaged and said, my son found me when he was 23 and I didn't feel worthy to be his mum again. And mate, that broke me because that's the voice of someone still being dragged around by Bob years later. And my heart went out to her. I told her, worthiness isn't earned through perfection, it's earned through presence. You show up, you stay, you admit your mistakes, and you let love grow in the cracks. Because life isn't a clean slate, it's messy and painful and real. And Bob will try to convince you that the mess means failure. But really, the mess just means you're human.
You know what I love about this part of the podcast, mate? It's the part where people realize they're not alone, that their pain, as unique as it feels, is mirrored in others. And when you share those letters, those stories, it's like a collective sigh from the listeners who thought they were the only ones fighting Bob in the dark.
Yeah, and that's why we do this, not to tell people how to fix it, but to say, I see you, I've been there, and maybe we can walk through the fire together. All right, so here's where the shift started. Not overnight, not clean, but real. I remember waking up one morning after another rough night, heart racing, chest tight, Bob already pacing back and forth before I even got out of bed. He was muttering all his greatest hits. What's the point? You're going to ruin today too. Just stay in bed, mate. You're safe here. And I almost listened. Almost. But then I thought, no, not today. And I dragged myself up. And that was the moment I started building my toolkit. Not a miracle cure, not some guru crap, just small, solid things I could hold on to when Bob got loud. First thing I added, a routine. And I'm not talking about a 5 a.m. smoothie and yoga influencer routine. I mean basic working class survival stuff. Wake up, make the bed, shower, eat something. Doesn't have to be fancy, just something that reminds you you're still human. And then I added journaling, not every day, not with fancy pens or poetic flair, just thoughts, raw, unfiltered, sometimes ugly. I'd write stuff like, today sucked, or I miss her, or Bob's being a prick again. And weirdly, it helped. It was like dragging those voices out of my head and pinning them to paper where they couldn't fester.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. Real tools, not the fluffy stuff people pretend works for everyone. Just actual steps that help you hold the ground when everything's slipping. And writing to Bob directly? That's genius. Turn him into a pen pal instead of letting him control the mic.
Yeah, I wrote him some colourful letters, let me tell you. One time I just wrote, Dear Bob, kindly piss off. Didn't need a second paragraph. And the third thing I added to the kit, purpose, something outside myself. For me, that was this podcast, telling my story, helping people feel seen. It gave meaning to the mess. When I sat behind the mic and said, I've been through this, I wasn't just venting, I was taking power back. And Bob hates that. He hates when you turn pain into connection because he lives in isolation. He thrives in silence. But purpose starves him.
Mate, that's a message people need to hear. Purpose doesn't have to be some big life-changing mission. Sometimes it's just planting something and watching it grow, or calling someone and asking how they're doing. It's movement.
Exactly. That's the key. Like, keep moving, even if you're crawling, even if your legs are shaking. The day you stop is the day Bob starts running the whole bloody show again, and I'm not letting him run anything anymore. He can sit in the back grumbling, but I'm driving now.
And I reckon everyone listening needs to hear that loud and clear. It's your story, your wheel, your path. Bob's not the author, you are.
Too bloody right. And if Bob's listening, hope you're taking notes, mate. You know, the funny thing about light, it doesn't wait for perfect timing. It just shows up, even if you're not ready for it. I remember one morning just sitting on the porch, still half in that fog from the night before, still carrying the weight of guilt and memories, and Bob whispering his usual nonsense. What's the point, really? And suddenly, sunlight just broke through the clouds, not metaphorically, I mean literally. This beautiful, warm, golden light just poured across the driveway, and for a second, I felt something. Peace, hope, I don't know, but something shifted, and that's what I want people to understand. Healing isn't this giant leap, it's tiny moments, quiet ones, like sunlight after a storm, or hearing your grandkid laugh for the first time over a video call, or being told, love you, Pop, and realizing it wasn't a dream. Those are the moments that remind you why you stayed. Bob still pops up, of course. He's there in the background, usually when I'm tired or stressed or scrolling social media for too long. He'll chime in with his, this is all going to fall apart eventually, routine. And you know what I do now? I laugh. I actually laugh. I look around and say, oh, look who's back. Bob the Buzzkill, ladies and gentlemen. Because once you recognize the voice, once you name it and call it out, it starts to lose its grip. That's what this whole journey's taught me. The light doesn't erase the darkness, but it reminds you where to look.
And I reckon that's the most powerful part, mate. You're not saying the darkness goes away. You're saying it doesn't own the whole bloody sky. There's still light, still color, still warmth, even if it shows up in pieces.
Exactly. And some days all you get is a flicker, but that flicker, that's enough to keep going. It's like those solar garden lights. They don't need much, just a little sun, and they glow all night. That's us. We take in what we can and we hold on to it until the next bit of light comes.
That's beautiful, mate, and honest. And I reckon anyone listening right now, whether they're in the thick of it or just starting to climb out, they need to hear that hope doesn't have to be loud to be real.
Couldn't have said it better. Hope can whisper. Healing can be messy. And Bob, well, he can keep whinging in the corner. We've got things to live for now. All right, legends. If you've stuck with us this far, I just want to say thank you. This episode's been one of the heaviest and most personal I've shared, from becoming a dad way too young, to losing my daughter, to reconnecting nearly 2 decades later, to meeting my grandkids and facing the emotional wreckage of it all. This has been a ride. But before we wrap it up, I want to leave you with this. Healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about learning how to live with it and not letting it define your future. It's okay to grieve what you missed. It's okay to carry guilt. It's okay to stumble, to fall, to argue with your anxiety, even if your anxiety's name is Bob and he wears socks with sandals. But it's also okay to laugh, to grow, to get back up. If today's been hard for you, take a breath. You've already survived 100% of your worst days. That's not just a quote, that's a fact. And if you're feeling like Bob's screaming too loud to think straight, reach out, talk to someone, talk to me. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor, but I'm here. Email me, write, scream into the void if you have to. But don't go quiet, because you matter. Your story matters, and you are not alone.
And if you are struggling right now, please don't sit with that pain in silence. There are incredible services that can help. We've got the numbers for you, and we share them every week because they've helped us, and they can help you too. Lifeline 131114. Suicide Call. Back service 1300 659467. Beyond. Blue 1300 224636. Men's Line, Australia 1300 789 978. 13YARN, First Nations Support, 1392-76.
And if you're looking for something a bit more structured, something that can guide you through anxiety, depression, and more, we strongly recommend checking out This Way Up. It's an Australian online mental health platform offering clinically backed self-help programs. These aren't just slapped together. They're created by real psychologists and psychiatrists.
Yeah, This Way Up is led by clinical director Dr. Mike Millard and is based out of the Clinical Research Unit for Anxiety and Depression, CRUFOD, a joint initiative between St. Vincent's Hospital and the University of New South Wales. They've got 18 tailored programs, and you don't need a referral to get started. You can access them instantly. Or, if you do have a GP, they can support you through it.
I've used their programs myself, and I'm telling you, they help me understand my anxiety, depression, trauma, and how to fight back when Bob gets loud. So head to thiswayup.org.au. It might just be your first real step toward the light.
And as always, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at chatwithscottfindthelight@gmail.com and check the Spotify poll for this week. What would you say to your younger self today?
Mine would be simple. You're not broken, you're just carrying too much. Let it out.
Mine would be, you're worthy of love, even when you don't feel it.
All right, legends, next week, episode 5, The Drug Years. We go deep, no filters. We talk addiction, escape, pain, and the long road back. You don't want to miss it.
We'll talk about the reasons people use, the things they're trying to numb, and how sometimes the substance isn't the problem. It's the silence underneath it.
Thanks again for being part of Finding Light in Darkness. You've got this. Keep going.
We believe in you.
And Bob, if you're listening, grab a cuppa and take the night off. We're closing this one on our terms.
I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. I'm trying to make this darkness go away. I'll paint with colors and I'll sing until my lungs give out. I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. And I will leave my windows open so that I can hear the sound of people talking and the wind blowing in the trees. Oh, I will open up my eyes so I can see the light. Oh, and I'll try to spread my wings so I can fly. Oh, and the darkness starts to fade. Feels like things are gonna go my way. I'm gonna let the sun shine in the day. gonna let the past be filled with smoke, and I will try to fix what has been broken, and take this weight off my shoulders, 'cause I know yesterday ain't coming back. I'm gonna let the past stay in the cold. I will listen to the ocean, let its unsaid words be spoken, and I'll let my mind be carried by the waves.